Hello guys, this video is about variables and methodology in internal assessment group for science in IBDP. I already suggested my map, starting from title, which is the research question, then I explained what do we mean by re-explaining a research question, then I continued with background information and hypothesis. You know them. Now we will focus on variables and methodology in this video. First of all, let me classify the variables. Variables are classified into three main groups in this investigation. First is independent variable, you know them, initially changed and regarded as cause. The other is the dependent variable, which is finally changed and regarded as the effect. And the other is the control variable. Control variable is the variable which is kept or remained constant but could have been changed. Their possible change will affect the results. Let's go over a few examples and learn them in practice. It's a biology research question. How does surrounding temperature, let's say 4 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius, and 35 degrees Celsius affect the growth rate of bacteria on raw lamb meat over 48 hours? Here we have the temperature which will affect the bacteria growth. Temperature is regarded as independent variable, and the bacteria growth will be the dependent variable. But there are some other factors which could be under control, otherwise they will affect our results. I'm not a biologist, but I think, for example, ambient light may be one of them. I know that bacteria growth is highly affected by light. In sunlight and dark room, the bacteria growth will be different. The other may be oxygen saturation, oxygen level of the room, I don't know. There must be some more control variables. I don't know. Ask your supervisor. They will tell you and you should mention them in your IA. Another research question, how altitude of airplane can affect fuel consumption in turbofan engines, jet engines? Here the altitude will affect the fuel consumption and it's regarded as independent variable, and fuel consumption is our dependent variable or the effect. The control variables are the ones can potentially affect the results, but we have already kept them constant. Let's say wind speed is one of them. You know, wind speed is highly affecting on fuel consumption of airplane. The other may be the aircraft speed. We should keep them constant, otherwise what do we mean by altitude? In higher altitude, you may have a different wind speed or aircraft speed, so they may affect your results. You should keep them under control. They are called control variables. Of course, there must be much more, and you should mention them again. One of my students used this setup to consider the non-ohmic behavior of incandescent lamp. She was supposed to draw a graph like this, voltage versus current, and then measure the ohmic resistance of this incandescent lamp. Anyway, she applied a power supply and connected in series with a meter, and then the current is passing through the incandescent lamp, goes back to the power supply, and here she had a voltmeter to measure the potential difference. In this type of experiments, please tell the reader why you consider a variable as dependent, independent, or controlled. Give reasons. And the other is give a notation and unit to each variable. It's very important. This is a table she prepared. Variable name, voltage. Voltage is called independent or considered independent here. Notation she has used is V, unit is volt, and the reason here, it is changed manually as a cause to affect the resistance. Current intensity is the dependent variable in this experiment. The notation is I, the current is measured in amps and ampere, and it is varied as a result of voltage change. The other two are the controlled ones, wiring resistance and the room temperature. She mentioned that wiring resistance here, all along the experiment, the wiring of the circuit kept unchanged. It can potentially affect the current, and also the room temperature can affect the resistance, but it was kept constant using air conditioner. And it was not that necessary to mention a unit or notation for these two. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. Ask your supervisor. This is an example of reasoning and a proper table for introducing the variables. Now let's go over the methodology. Methodology is very important and it's how you will do your research. Have a detailed illustration for the experiment you will do. Actually, you have an origin, your research question, and finally your results, destination. In between, you have a pathway. This pathway is called methodology. Explanation of that. You will have four main modules here: materials you have used and setup of the device, and the safety considerations, and finally procedure. These four main modules are to be mentioned in detail. Materials. List all the major pieces of apparatus, equipment, and substances used. This is an example here. Two 1 liter rectangular motor oil cans or similar metallic plate containers, one Peltier cell, two digital thermometers, and you see my students also has mentioned every detail of them, that which brand or which code of this Peltier cell used. Whatever you have used in detail, please. The other is setup. Labeled drawing, diagram, or photo that shows the apparatus you used. Not necessary, but useful for experiment-based investigation. Sometimes your eye is not experiment-based; it's a simulation. It's okay. You don't have any setup, any specific setup. But if you do an experiment, make a labeled photo. It's very nice, or maybe diagram. In this photo, you see my student mentioned ruler, string, hook, neodymium magnet. Whatever they have used is mentioned here. Safety, ethical, environmental considerations. Outline any safety concerns and how they will be addressed. For example, animal experimentation policy. Read that in IB instructions. Where your materials are coming from, what will happen to them afterwards, how waste will be disposed of, and etc. For example, in physics, we had an experiment. These are the safety considerations. Wearing safety glasses to protect eyes due to the sudden burst of the balloon, wearing masks due to the pandemic, it was in pandemic, stabilizing the sphygmomanometer to avoid any damage due to poisonous nature of the mercury, and so forth. And finally, procedure, precise list of steps used. Please use passive voice. I did that, I did this. It's not correct. Let's say was done. Okay, passive voice. The reader should be able to recreate your exact experiment and get the same results. Write the cookbook in numbered list or maybe bullet point. In procedure, please, number one, explain how you will measure or control variables. For example, let's say the room temperature is an effective factor and you have already controlled it. You may have used air conditioner. Okay, mention it. The other is explain how you will increase the precision and accuracy of measurements. You know, precision is related to the random errors, and actually it will be reduced with using different methods. One of the very common approaches is doing more than one trial and taking average. The accuracy is related to systematic errors, and it is reduced by using very high-tech and very accurate apparatus. Mention them if you have used. And finally, give the details about your measurements. For example, how you will measure the length of the pendulum from where to where, how you will use your measuring equipment. Let me show you something here. One of my students had an experiment related to the effect of the length of the pendulum in high angle of deviation and the period of oscillation. Okay, please mention what do you mean by the length from here to here, from here to here. Anyway, the bob is not going to be a point mass. So what do you mean by length of the pendulum from here to here? Whatever you mean, mention. This is very interesting experiment one of my students did. He used a Coca can, a Coca bottle like this, and then a valve here, and then here he used a car tire valve. He pumped air in and then made a car, okay, a small car. Actually, after a specific pressure, the air pressure is enough to push the car back. according to the Newton's third law, something like jet engine. It will expel out the air with high speed, and then the car will move for a few meters. He was supposed to consider the effect of the internal pressure, initial pressure of the air inside this bottle on the range, okay? Range of the car, how many meters it may go. So he was supposed to draw a graph like this. The pressure, the independent variable, will affect the dependent variable, the range, okay? Something like this. This is the explanation he used. Look at this. In detail, he explained everything. The soda bottle is pumped to 10 psi. This is the beginning of the experiment. A line is drawn immediately behind the back left tire. So he may have already drawn a line here and then measured the range according to this. It's the beginning point. The valve is opened. Here the valve is opened, and then the car starts moving. The line is drawn immediately behind the back left tire at its final position. So it will move for a few meters and then again a line. Okay, so the measurement he has done on the range will be the distance traveled from here to here. And here is again at the same point, the back left tire. The distance between two lines is measured a measuring tape, and so he has used the measuring tape and recorded. The experiment is repeated in 5 psi increments, so he has already used 10 psi at the beginning, and then 10 plus 5, and then 10 plus 5 plus 5, and blah blah, up to 35. The experiment repeated for a total of 3 trials. So 3 trials, mentioning to the more precision. Actually, he will reduce the random errors. He will do the experiment 3 times and then make an average. That's all. Thank you for watching this video. It's done, and the upcoming video will be about data collection and analysis. See you soon.